Monday morning, it's an NHL playoff on AFKN as Quebec takes on Philadelphia or Edmonton meets Chicago. That's Monday morning at 9:35 on AFKN TV.
This is AFKN.
In touch with your world.
It's listeners with a wide spectrum of news and information. Today, AFRTS News is sent to your local station by satellite, undersea cable, or shortwave transmission. America's major radio networks provide a diversified schedule of news, commentary, and public affairs programs for use by your local station. Armed Forces Radio, providing you news and information for over 40 years.
Monday, the Detroit Tigers try to sock it to the White Sox in live baseball action. Join us Monday morning at 8 on your total entertainer, AFKN AM Radio.
This is AFKN.
In touch with your world.
Spiritual leader of all Catholics in the military and will represent them to Pope John Paul II. In the past, this position, known as the military vicariate, was led collaterally by the Archbishop of New York. Archbishop Ryan was installed last week in a ceremony at the Shrine of the Immaculate Conception in Washington, D.C. The new military ordinariate told Navy News this week he's looking forward to his duties.
I have the greatest admiration for all people in the military. I feel that we're able to sit here and talk today because people in the military have defended our country. I'm delighted that I have even a closer relationship now than I did before.
Archbishop Ryan's experience with the military services has been extensive. During World War II, he served as a Navy chaplain with the Marines in Okinawa and also spent time with the Marines in Lebanon during their peacekeeping mission there.
I said mass on the airfield in Beirut for the sailors and Marines a year ago. I confirmed people on the aircraft carrier in the Mediterranean Christmas night. I was on the New Jersey. I visited the Sinai Desert for 8 days. Army there, the Army and Air Force in Turkey and Spain. I found all of these young people very respectful, most refreshing, and especially patriotic.
The office of the ruling bishop of the military archdiocese will make its headquarters in Washington, D.C. beginning this summer. Archbishop Ryan said he hopes this will permit closer relations with the various chiefs of chaplains.
Bomb is being developed by the Navy as a deterrent to the chemical weapons known to exist in many other countries, including the Soviet Union.
It's reached the point now that more nations than at any other point in history possess chemical weapons. We're counting, as a matter of fact, 16 nations right now with chemical weapons. The Navy tells me that it has passed 74 of 75 developmental tests. This includes airdrops and carrier landings and other things.
How does this Bigeye bomb work?
The bomb flies towards a target. It's a loft kind of delivery, so it's lofted 2 to 5 miles away from the target. And over the target at a predetermined height, it will spray out this nerve agent, and it will fall on the target, covering approximately a third of a square mile per bomb.
The chemical agent used in the Bigeye bomb is called VX, and it is the most lethal nerve agent known.
Once it hits an individual, an unprotected individual on the skin, he will be a casualty within 30 seconds to a minute if he doesn't get that off his skin. It will penetrate that quickly.
Existing stockpiles of chemical weapons are especially dangerous because they are stored in their lethal state. The advantage to the Bigeye system is in its separate chemical components, each harmless until mixed en route to the target. Because of the success of recent Navy-conducted tests, the Department of Defense has asked Congress for production money for Bigeye in fiscal year 1986. For Navy News This Week, I'm Petty Officer Rich Clemens.
The Navy is changing the way it credentials its doctors. New instructions released last September have tightened the credentialing process for newly recruited doctors, closing virtually all the loopholes. The Navy is also checking out doctors who are already in the system.
We've gone back through the American Medical Association computer and checked out all 4,000 docs that we have in now. We're even checking all the civilians that work for us, and right now we're actively having a check done on reservists. So we're going as far as this can be gone.
Recent congressional pressure has prompted the military to consider requiring state medical licenses for its doctors. Dr. Babka says about 10% of the Navy's doctors are not licensed to practice in any state. But because credentialing is a much more stringent and ongoing process, Dr. Babka says patients shouldn't worry that their doctor is practicing without a license.
A license is not very meaningful. It simply means you graduated from school and passed a test once, somewhere back there. You can practice for 20 years and never open a book, never learn another thing, and still be licensed. We're delighted that licensure is going to be required because there are a lot of people who think that if you don't have a license, you aren't any good. The easiest way to get that solved is to have licenses for everybody. It's much easier than trying to explain why you don't.
Next time, we'll examine the Navy's readiness to meet its wartime medical commitments.
These are unfair because they are being brought about by a lack of available brig space. But there are an even greater number of males being kept in civilian correctional facilities, and they too are faced with these FBI records.
Our Second Nav instruction, which governs confinement, simply states that when a military facility is not available, we can use a federal Marshal Service approved jail or other confinement facility.
In the not-too-distant future, all prisoners in military facilities will be included in these FBI computer files.
The need is, if there's been an offense committed and a person is serving time for it, that needs to be known when they're discharged. Feel would be an appropriate sentence if it's a first-time offender or a second-time or third-time offender, you see.
Official lack of available cell space for female prisoners is being addressed, and eventually all brigs will be able to house female prisoners. However, the problem may worsen before it gets better. 12 under inspection by the Navy, 3 have already been declared substandard, and the prisoners removed because of potential life-threatening hazards.
Cargo to process, 550 people to do it with, and 24 hours to do it in. The name of the game is coordination, a responsibility of the Military Traffic Management Command Terminal at Pusan. In addition to guiding his regular staff, Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Brown, Pusan MTMC commander, was responsible for organizing the efforts of hundreds of contracted Korean stevedores and ROC and U.S. troops, to include a small American outfit from Fort Story, Virginia. After one day of instruction on offloading the ship and an explanation of just how each worker's piece fits into the entire puzzle, the collection of long-time dock workers and first and only timers was ready to tag, unload, direct, and redirect Team Spirit supplies from the Bellatrix to a railhead and then to the field. Sure, there's the possibility of problems, mainly due to some worker inexperience and the language barrier. But Lieutenant Colonel Brown says those are easily remedied.
Yeah, we have problems. Part of our ground reconnaissance, so to speak, is so that when we begin to have problems, that every individual, to include every driver, knows what our original intent was. So that when things begin to slide a little bit, as they always do, and when you're working with a lot of new people, each individual knows what our original intent was. And in many cases, he can work on his own initiative and get things back in order.
When the language barrier does present a problem, Lieutenant Tom Mallory, XO of the 368 Company from Fort Story, Virginia, says each worker has to deal with it in their own way.
You either have to draw a diagram for them or just point to a certain area or communicate non-verbally in some way. And that's a great experience for people, not just the stevedores here, but for anybody. All the 25th Infantry coming down here, that's very unique.
Contingency planning calls for 90% of all supplies to come to the Republic via sea lift, so the ability of the MTMC to do its job is extremely important. Harold I. Small is the Major General who wears the commander's hat of the MTMC in Washington. It's his contention that practicing sea lift operations, especially during Team Spirit, sheds light on their importance. Organization, cooperation, and coordination are essential when trying to get 550 pairs of hands pulling the right ropes at the right times. The MTMC makes it happen, though, and with the successful Team Spirit processing of the USNS Bellatrix comes the reassurance that our sea lift responsibility to the peninsula can be met precisely and professionally. Mark Vega, AFKN News, Pusan.
Living may not sound exciting, but when the traffic is aircraft directed from a tactical air traffic control tower, the job becomes a challenge. While a pilot must concentrate on controlling one aircraft, the air traffic controller often keeps an eye on several at once.
Pilot is responsible just for his aircraft and flying that into an airport and landing it, versus air traffic controller is responsible for maybe 50 aircraft at one time.
While military air traffic controllers can suffer the same fatigue and stress as civilian air traffic controllers, that's hardly the case with the tactical mission because they do much more than control air traffic.
Sometimes we take bets who can set up their equipment a lot faster than the others, especially when you got a lot of young troops up there. So it does, it is real rewarding when we got a lot of young soldiers coming in like I do now in my section, and to teach them how to put it up. And that's a big part, putting up that equipment. If that equipment isn't put up properly, then it's no good.
They do the same job as a civilian controller, but live like soldiers, and it seems to be a good combination.
I like the challenge. I like being around the aircraft, controlling them, being around the type of people that are in ATC. Most of them run into really nice folks.
All in all, it takes a team effort between the pilot, the radar controller, and the air traffic controller to bring an aircraft in safely. But then again, team effort is what team spirit is all about. Ron Toll, AFKN News, north of Yeoju.
Describe the 52nd Medical Battalion, formerly the 377th Medical Company located at K-16, and the 56th Medical Company Camp Humphreys. They've been consolidated to provide corps-level medical command and control for the northern region of the Republic. Colonel Richard T. Travis, Commander, 18th Medical Command, outlines the significance of combining the cadre.
What a great day for 18th Medical Command. And let's take it in order. Change of command. Symbolic, yes, of new leadership, but not of new direction. The organization of the 52nd Medical Battalion Provisional is a milestone event as 18th Medical Command tracks and targets our #1 priority, operational readiness. I have considered the formation of this battalion so important that I directed that it be made at this point from our cadre strength, from within our own resources.
Is one of the most effective planes in the Air Force arsenal, and the 26 A-10s assigned to the 25th Tactical Fighter Squadron at Suwon have a phenomenally high readiness rate, largely because of the fortitude of the dedicated crew chiefs and other flight line personnel assigned to the 6151st Consolidated Aircraft Maintenance Squadron.
When the Air Force brought the dedicated crew chief program back, it's probably one of the best things and most exciting things for crew chiefs in some time, even past to my era. Much of the pride displayed in the 6151st camps is obviously displayed around our dedicated crew chiefs, all that are doing a fantastic job maintaining the aircraft. Many of them refer to their aircraft as having personalities. Therefore, those crew chiefs assigned to the aircraft know the personality of the aircraft, and they understand how the machine works for them, and consequently they can handle all of the things that flares up on the aircraft and to keep it flying. A big part of our mission here is definitely centered around our VCC program.
Nicknamed the Warthog because of its rounded snout and armor-piercing bite, the A-10 is a mainstay against the 3-1 North Korea tank advantage over the U.S. and Republic of Korea Combined Forces Command, and the crew chiefs responsible for keeping them flying are dedicated both in concept and in spirit.
You get to learn the systems, you know what's likely to break on that particular aircraft, you just know a better background on the airplane, you know the history of it. You know what happens that day, you know what's going to happen. You know what happens every day. You know, you get a good turnover from your assistant at night. You just keep up on the airplane. You don't keep moving from airplane to airplane. And through flight it, in between flights, in the afternoon, we give it a basic post-flight after the flight. We check in the hydraulics, landing gear, cockpit, fuselage. Give it a pretty thorough going over.
With the help of the Aircraft Maintenance Unit's support section, which supplies the crews with tools and parts, the 6151st cams keep their birds in the air with a sense of pride that anyone can see.
Of course, we have the dedicated crew chief to each aircraft, and of course they work under the direction of a flight chief. They keep tab of the dedicated crew chief to ensure that they are in fact doing what they're supposed to do. However, we find that we don't have to follow up as often as we've had before because of the dedicated crew chief program, we select those individuals that are top-notch. An individual does not become a dedicated crew chief because he's strictly 431 X1 APG type. He has to earn that right to become a dedicated crew chief.
For AFKN News, this is Mike Frank at Suwon.
Frostbite, your mission on ice. During Team Spirit, it remains a constant threat to everyone. To prevent frostbite, wear adequate, loose-fitting clothing. Protect your face from high winds and keep your clothing and body dry. Safety is a team effort.
I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and hit that notification icon for the latest videos as they are released. Thanks for watching and catch you in the next one. Ciao for now.